The other day we spoke to you about productivity. We're going to continue the conversation today. We're going to talk about maximizing productivity with a remote team. This guy, my good friend Brad, man, he's an agile expert and some good advice he's going to share with you today that can help you as a sales leader or as a sales rep. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast here on TSE TV on YouTube. I am your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, man and sisters. I'm ready for you today. And on today's episode, we have a great guest. His name is Brad Jevons, and Brad has led teams for the past 25 years in sales. So he knows how to work with teams, and especially right now in a pandemic, being able to help that team remotely. We kind of gave some thoughts the other day on how we can help you to make sure you're maximizing your efforts when you're working from home. This one is about managing your team, or if you're a seller, how you can best manage yourself to be more effective. Now, the other good thing about Brad is that he comes with this agile sales mentality. He has a book. Well, that's great, right? Ties right to it. Book is titled Agile Sales. And I think it's something that all of you should check out. It's all about delivering that customer journey, that of value and delight. And no matter what type of sales you're in or what type of product you're selling, this could be effective for you. You can check out the book down below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or any of the directories, you can just click on the show notes and you'll see it there. We go into this conversation and Brad and I start talking about this concept of being agile and how we can tackle this difficult time we're in right now. Anyways, listen to the episode and let's see if you can take one of these P's out of it and apply. He gives 4 P's. Take one, apply. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Hey, Donald. Good to see you.
Hey, man. Excited to have you and excited to be here with you. I know we're doing with some time difference, just a little bit time difference, right? You're kind of in Australia and I'm kind of in Florida. So we have a big white chasm between us there.
Yeah, I'm in the future, as you said earlier, mate. It's totally different.
I'm waiting for the lottery numbers. So when you finish those, just get them over to me. So I'll go make the purchase.
Yeah, we can set something up there.
We'll make out like bandits.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Brad, we're talking today because not only do you have the expertise, but we are in an interesting time period where we are finding that many of our team members or many of us are working from home. And we want to know, how can we make sure we maximize our sales productivity when we're working with a remote team? You might be leading a team or you have team members, and you have kids at the table, and you got the dog and all the crazy nuances that come with a work from home atmosphere. How do we make sure that our team members are still being productive? Maybe you can point out several things and we could dive into each of those. Does that sound fair enough?
Yeah, Don, for sure.
Yeah.
Don, mate, I wouldn't mind just starting with a little bit of a backstory on it that might give some context. Like with myself, I got involved with selling remotely growing up on a farm in Australia, remote farm. And I watched my mother selling over the phone. And
Wow.
that's all we did. We sold over the phone. And this is 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
The level of trust that she built and then I was able to build over the phone, lifelong relationships, but also the level of value we're able to deliver, through that consultative type of approach was amazing. So I guess I got introduced to productivity at an early age because, of course, over the phone, you can cover so much turf. You can make a lot of phone calls and you can do a lot of meetings, especially nowadays. Man, I would have loved to have Zoom and Microsoft Teams and things like that back then. But, to the day she died, she had these relationships that she'd built over the phone. And I have those relationships too. And I don't think, it's not too much different to what I'm finding creates productivity now, except that when I went to university, I studied operational excellence and organizational excellence.
Yeah.
And I studied companies like McDonald's and Apple and all these large companies that scaled so fast and achieved so much. And I found some secrets in there, mate, that as I went into my career, which ended up in sales through to general management and senior leadership, I found that the practices from growing up, coupled with the practices that I learnt through my educational career, they really applied to productivity, but also performance in sales. And that's where my book Agile Sales came from, Donald, because I basically the best practices in operational excellence or enterprise excellence I see now are from Agile. Like you look at some of the largest organizations in our world right now, they've used Agile to create high performance, high speed in scaling. And, to me, it doesn't, most of it's been applied to IT or to R&D.
Yeah.
All I've done is apply it to sales, because people working in R&D, they're people too, just the same as in sales. They're all focused on the customer.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's a perfect blend. And now that we're working remotely, it's sort of just taken it to a whole new level. That with applying best practices like you get out of Agile to sales, you can get huge productivity, but also amazing customer experience. You can actually take it to another level. Like we all feel that experience has to come from, you know, pressing the flesh and shaking the hand and meeting someone.
Hmm.
But I think it's not necessarily that way nowadays.
So if you're, I mean, and I love the concept too that you're, bringing an agile into this, because it wasn't something that I even thought about with this concept. So this is fascinating, right out the gate. What is the what is the approach, or what are some of those, maybe some of those tactical things that we can do if I have a remote sales team, when it
Yep.
comes to that productivity, to ensure that they're just still being productive, and to maximize the in, agile.
Yeah. So Donald, I'll describe it under what I call the 4 Ps of productivity in sales. The first one is you've got to have a plan. I think in these times, you've got to be able to really refocus and create a plan for where do we need to attack, where do we need to sell, where do we need to account manage now, who is still buying right now.
Mm.
And I've found through this pandemic, the companies that were already applying agile to sales are able to pivot so fast. I had a company who was selling desserts and frozen cheesecakes into food service. Now, when the pandemic hit in Australia, food service shut down. All clubs, cafes shut down. These guys were able to adjust their plan because they were attuned to it, they were skilled at it, and able to pivot rapidly to sell into retail, to sell into the hotels where people coming back in were getting quarantined, to
Yeah.
selling into jails, to selling into all these other areas. And they're back up over 80% of their budget, 80 to 90% of their budget, even though their whole market's been shut down.
Wow.
So the plan is the first part, and you got to be able to move fast. Like these guys, Donald, when they use my agile sales 1-page plan, it's like a plan on a page.
Yeah.
They pivoted within a 2-hour session, collaborated as a team, readjusted their plan within 2 hours, and then went off and started hunting and farming and achieved great things. So that's the first part. I'd say you got to have a plan. The other thing too, mate, I think that plan's you got to understand your uniqueness in there.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to have this plan. We're going to pivot in this way. We're going to sell here. Why would that customer buy from us? What's our unique proposition here? The thing that is going to be valuable to them. That's one other element I'd really raise as part of the plan. And I'd say that you can do it really fast, but the trick is plans have to be done with your team, not to your team. So that's the final element I'd say. And hey, with video conferencing now, how easy is that?
Yeah.
With this customer of mine, Priestley's, we basically collaborated through Microsoft Teams, ran the 2-hour session, everyone's off and running. So it was really good. That's the first thing I'd say. Because keeping doing the same old thing in today's world, I see as disastrous, because
Yeah.
things are changing so fast and they're going to keep changing so fast. And that's what Agile has enabled these largest companies to do. The
Yeah.
next P I'd say is people. I just want to touch on people first, because I think we need to show empathy to our sales team at the moment, because everyone's under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And so it's a real time that we can show empathy and build trust with our own team. But also the sales team, I think, when they go outbound through Zoom or Teams or over the phone or email or however they want it, social media,
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important that they show empathy to the people they're talking to. Start with the empathic people side of things.
Yeah.
If you go in hardcore on product at the moment and you start pitching, you're going to blow yourself out of the water real quick, because people are under a lot of stress or a lot of anxiety. So that's the second P, and there's a whole heap more to that, of course, but people. The third P I'd say then, mate, is process. That in Agile, there are some processes in Agile around team collaboration, these rapid high performance meetings where teams collaborate regularly and often for just 10 to 15 minutes to check the plan, to adjust what they're doing, check some measures, and move forward rapidly. So it's this rapid meeting rhythm cycle that the meeting's focused on innovation. It's
Yeah.
focused on what are we going to do, whereas a lot of sales meetings, Donald, can be focused on what's happened. Where's your opportunities at? Where's your figures at? Where's your call rate at? Like, mate, that does nothing to actually driving your performance in the future.
Yeah.
So I think the beautiful thing that Agile's done, it's brought in this front foot, forward facing rapid meetings. Like, you're not sitting in a sales meeting for 2 hours listening about people's opportunities falling asleep. You're in there, and you're in there via your phone, mate. You know, you're in there via Microsoft Teams or Zoom,
Yeah.
and you might be out the front of your sales call, about to go on your first, oh, sorry, I should say about to make your first phone call. Guys, you got to understand, I'm in Australia now. So in Australia, we have a lot of, we're opened up again now. So there's a, excuse me if I glitch. So, you know, that's the next part, is that process. But the other part I'd say is the fourth P, which is partner with your customer. So with your customer, in today's environment, I pose that you have to go in there abundant to consult, to help them. And, you know, there's the old saying, I think it comes from Miller Hyman, which is customers either buy when they've got too much money or when they're in crisis. I think that's Miller Hyman. You know, well, you know, either at the minute, there's companies that are scaling like crazy and they've got too much money, or travel's been stopped. So every company's saved a fortune on travel and they got a truckload of net profit,
Yeah.
or they're in pain. And so it's the most beautiful selling time. But the trick is with partner, you have to be going in as a consultant, an abundant consultant, not a leechy rip-off merchant consultant, an abundant consultant to help your customers. And you have to sell with purpose. Now,
Yeah.
to do that, mate, I've found that sales teams, the only way to do it and do it consistently is to help sales teams form a process, a framework that they consistently practice. And so I use a technique called customer journey mapping to help sales teams develop an abundant sales approach that they can practice and really tune and become highly skilled at. And man, the gains that I've seen happen, I've seen 30 times, 100 times growth rate outcomes by companies doing this. Because, you know, like in baseball, mate, or basketball, if you
Yeah.
don't have some sort of tactic, some sort of framework, some sort of game plan that you're practicing, you're never going to become great. And I find that that process bit is really important, mate. And I've been helping a lot of organizations lately do that.
So I know this is like totally on the spot, and obviously you can't do it all on a, within the next like 10 minutes that we have on this episode. But what is it that you would walk me through that process, or maybe you can pretend I'm a company, or I do have a sales team, and how would you walk me through that, creating that journey
Yeah.
from a higher view? Is that fair enough?
Yeah, Don, definitely.
Yeah.
So one thing I'd say, mate, with Agile, because Agile is built off of even lean practices, which come
Yeah.
out of, you know, Toyota and things. But what Agile's done is focus on the customer like crazy. And Agile's been applied a lot to marketing. So Microsoft and a lot of other companies have really used it extensively in marketing. I got trained by the ex-marketing manager of Microsoft in Europe in customer journey mapping. And it's a process where you start with the customer's buying journey. So this is even before they know you. It's called discovery. You
Yep.
get your team. Again, you're doing this with your people, not to your people. So you got the sales team involved or a territory involved, and you're starting at discovery, and you're going, what are the key people I'm selling to doing? It's called a persona. So you'll hear this word, a persona.
Hmm.
That's you're describing not the company you're selling to. You're describing the decision maker you're selling to, and their emotional desires, their value drivers, their background, demographics, all of this. And you're putting yourself in their shoes and you're going, what are they doing day to day? What are they watching? What are they hearing? What are they seeing? What are they feeling? What's their pains? What's their gains? You're really immersing yourself. But through that, Donald, your team discover ways that they can engage and connect with customers at the moment, even though they're remote. You'll find that some weird situation you find about this key decision maker you're targeting, you'll be like, wow, we can do that. And that will engage them in a value add way, not just a cold call.
Yeah.
Although the cold call might be the way. I don't, you know, it depends what comes out of that. Then you go into research and you're looking at what does this customer want to go through when they're trying to understand your product, the solution, how you're helping them, and how do we align to that through research? Because as a human, once we discover something we want to potentially buy, we
Yeah.
want to research it. After research, you then look at the purchase experience they're getting at the moment, now that COVID's on and we're remote, and you're trying to amplify that. You're also looking at the delivery experience, because that's part of the journey. Okay, sales mightn't be involved then, but man, we've got to nail that delivery, and that's looked at. And then there's a portion called devotion. You're trying to think, what can we keep doing for this client that's going to get them to this devotion level where they're devoted to our brand? And that's the power, mate, because that's where sales comes in. But you'll see sales is heavily involved in this, but we often have operations involved too, and supply chain people, because you're looking at the journey of the customer and you're trying to take it to a whole new level. Because of course, we all know as salespeople, we can do the best job possible, but if the whole organization's not in tune, mate, like we're in trouble.
Yeah,
So that's why I use this customer journey technique to really help companies look at their total process and get the back office pumping at the same time as we're getting the front office marketing and sales really pumping.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great. I appreciate you being willing to be agile with me on this episode,
Yeah,
and outlining that and framing it out, because I think that helps to give that full view to the seller or to the sales leader right now who's working from home, as well as the team working from home, and just looking at how the team's performing. Going through an activity like this, I can see how that could help everybody get back on the same page to practice the fundamentals, so they
yeah,
know this is what we should be doing, this is how we should be blocking and tackling. And you're managing the team, but you know that if everybody continues to do their plays in that plan, then we're going to see results. And it's not necessarily micromanaging now, but
no,
everyone is doing their part. That plan that is going to go past properly. And like you said, I mean, nobody wants to be a part of those meetings where it's like I'm doing this, my sales is this. It's like nobody cares about that. That should be in your one-on-ones. But come to how is your component helping the collective of us hitting $100,000, and what hiccups are we facing collectively that we can fix to make that happen? So those
yeah.
things I think could help with that productivity. So I love what you're sharing, going with.
Oh yeah, it is. No, it's amazing. And I know in it I've probably covered so many aspects, but I think for the listeners, if they latch onto one and they implement one, they will get uplift.
Yeah.
It's like of all the 4 Ps I covered, which was plan, people, process, and then partnering,
Hmm.
just implement one of them, whichever one you think is going to give you the biggest, or whichever one your team thinks. Again, do change with people, not to people. And whichever one you decide as a team to go with, work on it, nail it, you'll get uplift. I've seen it time and time again prior to COVID, but it's during COVID that I've seen the biggest gains. Because
Yeah.
the other thing too, Don, just on productivity, if you get that process going where you're running the short, sharp meetings, which in Agile are called scrums. There's this
Yeah.
concept called scrum in
Yeah.
Agile. If you get that going, one of the ideas that the team needs to be thinking about every meeting, every 15-minute meeting, is how do we become more productive? How do we save time? And there's a concept in Agile called waste and value. Value is whenever you're doing something that the customer would pay you money for. Now, in sales, the only time a customer perceives value from you is when you're talking to them, or when you're on a Zoom meeting, or when they're reading an email, or when you're after COVID face to face with them.
Yeah.
Everything else in business is waste in sales. So a lot of the teams I work with, they're constantly trying to get rid of the stuff that's not allowing them to be in contact with a customer. And
Interesting.
that's another key aspect of Scrum, is this continual attack on waste so that you can have more time to deliver value. And that's another aspect I'll share, because that's probably something someone can implement really fast
Of
and get
course.
yourself on the front foot. Give salespeople their lives back for 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week, so they're not sitting there going, "Oh my God, seriously?" And get on the front foot. It's good.
Well, I'm loving this, Brad, man. If there's one major piece of advice, I think you kind of did it already, but you would want listeners to walk away with, what's that piece of advice?
Yeah, I'd post to people, investigate Agile. My book's out there, my website's out there, but also Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwarber, the founders of Scrum, have just released the 2020 Scrum Guide.
Yeah.
And even those guys have now written that Scrum Guide so that it's not written to IT. It's not written purely for R&D and IT technology. It's written holistically. And so check out the 2020 Scrum Guide, check out my book, check out the website, and which is just bradjevons.com or agilesales.net.au, and choose one of them. Choose one of the topics that your team feels will get you the biggest bang for buck, and start continuously innovating.
Where can we find the book? Just at your website?
Yeah,
Or-
website or Amazon, anywhere. It's yeah, I think it's Amazon all over the world, Routledge, all the major bookstores online. And yeah, it's a short read. I've written it in an agile, fast way. Minimal words, get the knowledge out there.
Well, we'll put that back in our show notes. If you're watching this here on TSE TV on YouTube, just go ahead and scroll down. You'll see the link there to get access to Brad's book and to connect with him. Brad, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today, man. Appreciate you.
Same, Don. Thanks for everything you're doing, mate. It's so good what you help sharing knowledge and information to help people.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Listen, that was Brad Jevons, and I would highly recommend you go back and connect with him. We have some links in the show notes. You can find it there if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. And if you're listening to our show for the first time, just go ahead and hit subscribe and leave us a review. That would be greatly appreciated. Any review you leave about how you love the show will help somebody else coming back right after you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit that chime, and we'll notify you every time we have a new episode. Look down below. You'll see the information for Brad's book, Agile Sales. I highly recommend you check it out. It's as you heard in the episode today, he has tons of value. I wish we could have gone on for a longer period of time, but you can get the sense of the information and caliber this guy brings to the table. Now, speaking about caliber, I want you to check out our sponsors. You see their information below. You see them on the screen as well. I want you to check out the sponsors, go back to the show notes, learn about some of the great things that they're doing, and see if you can take advantage of the tools and the offers they're giving you. I want you to succeed. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, every single day, I want to challenge you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.